Right, so in this lesson we're going to learn about eyes, and there's more to eyes than just going, hey, here's how to draw this type of manga eye and that type of manga eye. Now, unfortunately, I won't have enough time to go through all the manga eyes because there's so many different styles out there. But I'll go through some of the major things you can do to change them up and how you can mix these things together with like a formula you can use to mix these things together and come up with all the different kind of eyes you see out there. The first thing, though, we want to kind of understand a little bit about the mechanics of the eyeball. So, a little bit about the mechanics of the eyeball is that one, the eyeball is round. So, first imagine the eye as if it were like inside of the socket. So, the eye is a round, it's round like this, right? So, it's a sphere. And then on that sphere, you have your pupil. And in manga, the pupil is usually big like this. You know, the pupil is it's huge. That's the colored part. And then you have the black part here. And so, we'll go ahead and make that the black part of the eye. Right? So you have this, very, very huge eye. That is the pupil, and retina part is huge. But this right here is the basic structure of the eye. And now now think about this eye as having like a pole through it like this. When we take this eye and we turn it, the whole sphere is going to turn, and therefore those poles would also turn. So when you have the eye and it's like looking, off this way, it's this whole entire round sphere that's moving. Now, what I recommend to do as a quick exercise, if you can, if you have like something round, like a ball that you can draw on with a Sharpie marker, or you have I don't know, like a billiards ball or something that's smooth you can draw on. If not, maybe go to Walmart, buy one of those in the craft store. No, actually go to the sports section and buy a ping pong ball. They have ping pong balls for really cheap, like $1 or something, for like 6 of them. And then what happens is if you take that ball and you draw an eyeball on it, just draw this right here, oval or even a round, it doesn't matter. Actually, yeah, try drawing round, that we get an idea what happens when it turns to the side. So we're not going to take this oval idea. We're going to take a regular eye, a regular human eye first, and we're going to draw a round eye on it like this, and then a round pupil. So go ahead and draw that on your ping pong ball. I don't expect you just to pause this course and run out to Walmart right now and get one if you don't have one, but definitely want to do this exercise. It'll help you visualize it in 3D and why the eye looks like it does from the side view. What happens is as you turn that ping pong ball around, what you'll notice is that right there will now look like an oval because we're just seeing part of it. And then same thing with the pupil. And this is what you're going to see when it turns around. And this is also if you go look at yourself in the mirror, well, you probably can't look at yourself in the mirror and do this, but if you have someone take a picture of you from the side view or set up your camera to where it's going to take a picture of you in the side view, what you'll notice is that your eye looks oval from the side view and you don't see much of it. And then also another thing you want to keep in mind is that with an eyeball you have skin, and the skin comes and it wraps around this actual sphere, comes in here. Well, actually we'll make it more like this here. Right, and that's why you get some of the pink on the inside of the eye there because it's kind of showing some of the other part of the eye. Then you have the eye fold. This is where your eyelid folds up into. Then you'd have the eyebrow, which usually comes out a little bit bigger than the eye. Just doing this very quickly, right? So then you don't see any of that eyeball that's stuck inside the socket. What you have is this is all like rounded, right? So this right here has a roundness. There's like a grid here. I'm going to show you real quick in a three-dimensional program because sometimes it helps me, and also I forgot to do the side view before anyway of the face. Then you have this lower part of the lid because this is also sticking out, and the reason why this is sticking out is because you have that sphere that is wrapping around. So this is wrapping around a sphere, and so it has that three-dimensionality. So when you view it from the side view, you have that sphere that's going around, the lid's still going around, right? And this part here, right? This is that lower part of the lid. And this part here also, as it comes up, it has to go around the eyeball still, like that, on the other side, because it's going all the way around the eye, right, into the other side over here. And if we were to turn it around, we'd see that. And so you're going to see a little bit of that lid as well. And so the eyelashes, if we were to draw some on here really quickly, would go like that, and then they'd kind of disappear as they're going out onto the other side of the eye. And that's why you'll see drawings done like that. If you ever wonder, well, why did they do this smaller eyelashes and a longer eyelash? It's because it's wrapping around the eyeball. Then you would have your out here, your nose up here, so you'd have the eyebrow coming. Right, so understanding the mechanics of the eye is important, and that's just a quick overview. I'm not going to go really deep into it. I go a lot more deeper into it in my anatomy course, anatomy for figure drawing and comics, and also in my heads course, which is part of my bundle series, which is how to draw and paint comics. That's a huge course. That's like a 65-hour course, so that's like almost everything you ever need to know. Anyway, so that's that. Now let's get into how this applies to manga eyes. But before we do that, let me show you some quick view of a three-dimensional character. Right, so this is, well, where did it go? This is Daz Studio 4.6 Pro. It's a free program. I believe it's still free. Totally free to use, really awesome program. Take some time to learn how to use it. It can really be useful for certain things like maybe figuring out certain poses that you can't just figure out, and also to learn like how things look in 3 dimensions. The best way, though, honestly, to learn 3 dimensions is to get into sculpting. Start sculpting the human head, learn about the human head, look at different views of the human head, maybe even take a sculpting class if you can, because learning how to sculpt the human figure and the face helps you really understand it in 3 dimensions to where when you draw it on paper, it's just much easier to capture that 3 dimensional view. Right, so here we have just regular eyes where you have the quite large pupils though, but nonetheless, or not just pupils, but the whole entire iris and everything. And what happens is as you begin to turn this to the side, watch what happens. You can start to see how you have a socket here that dips in and you have this eyeball that fits inside that socket. So basically there's a hole here from the skull, then there's an eyeball, a sphere that fits inside that hole, and then there's muscles and everything that attach. And as you turn to the side, notice that the eyes, even though they are perfectly round, are starting to get more and more oval and smaller. See that? Until when you get to the complete side view, you can just click on here. You have a total absolute side view. You can barely even see the eye now. You see that? And let me go and zoom in even more, like so. Let me take the time to render this where you can see this real quick. So as you can see here, the eyelid continues to wrap around the eyeball into the other side. Remember, there's a sphere here that's inside this hole, and so this is wrapping around that sphere and to the other side. That's why the eyelashes continue to go around on the other side, and they'll look shorter because they're further away. And the same thing if these eyelashes come down. This eyelid here comes out. What's important to memorize, I'm going to take a screenshot of this. Right, so what's important to realize or to memorize about this is that you have this. Let me go ahead and actually turn the opacity down here a little bit, make another layer above this. You have the eye here, it's even darker. And I like to sometimes make it a little bit bigger though, especially if you're doing manga. I like to really show more of the eye here and not be so realistic with it. But anyway, that's the actual eye. The lid comes out like this, and the lid comes out here like this. This is important to memorize. And you notice you have the eyebrow way up here, and then you have it right here, right? So you have this dip in here. This is important to memorize because even when you're drawing a manga eye, let's say the manga eye is really big and you want to see more of it to make it look more cool, you still want to come out like that and then have your eyelashes, if your manga doesn't have eyelashes on it, like so from the side view, and you still want to have that lid coming out. And same thing here, you still want to show the lid coming out further than the eye, and then you'll have your eyebrow in here like so. Right? So you still want to make sure you keep those principles in mind when drawing manga eyes. Personally, I think not all manga artists do that, but I think it's a good practice to get into. Nonetheless, it's good to know the actual foundation of things before we get into like how to stylize it, because how you stylize it comes down to, if you don't know how the actual real thing looks, how can you stylize it? And then also here I wanted to show when you're looking at the side view of the face, one thing I was telling you about before is notice how the lips come in right here and then come out. So you have the front lip sticks out a little bit farther than the bottom lip, so it goes boom, boom. So if we were to take this right here and stylize it, one way how we stylize this then is you come here with the nose and it comes like that. And that's how you stylize that. And then when you do the mouth, you just simply do this outside contour type look here. And that's usually what they'll do. And that right there is the stylized version of manga. And then they'll sometimes, have this kind of side open view of the mouth, or they might even kind of hint at this, hint at that, and hint at that right there. And then that right there might be how they do manga from the side view. So just keep that in mind. It is based in reality. Let's go ahead and delete both of those, and we'll go back to the program. And as we begin to turn here to 3/4 view, one thing I want to show here, because we'll be talking about this later, this eye appears to be a little bit shorter than the eye over here. And the reason why is because the nose is blocking part of the eye, and the eye is turning around in space. Remember, the eye is a round thing. When we view it from the side, we can see it's a round thing. We can see the roundness of it there. And so as it turns the 3/4 view, some of the eye begins to round around the head and disappears because the head is also round, and so it makes it disappear around away from us, and that's why it appears to be shorter. And this is important to understand because in manga 3/4 view, they'll utilize that principle by just shortening this eye. They'll just take it and like squish it up, but kind of draw it the same. They're not going to stick to too much of the realistic principles, but you can stick to those realistic principles. Right. With that being said and understood about the eyeball and a little bit of basics of how it works, little overview, let's go ahead and get into drawing some manga eyes and how they might look in different styles of them. So first thing is you want to do is you want to draw a sketch of the eye. And there's, we'll start with like some of the more prominent eye shapes. One of the more prominent eye shapes here, start from up here, is going to be like so. It's going to have this kind of oval type shape here. We'll start with red and we'll come in and I'll color black over it. And it almost has a straight down shape like this. So it's almost like this oval kind of shape. And then it's going to kind of actually somewhere, if this is, imagine a straight line coming across here, then you want something a little bit about halfway, somewhere about halfway between the eyes, somewhere around here, a little bit lower than, about a little bit lower than halfway, somewhere around here. That's where the eyelash is going to stop. So it's where, this is where it's thick, like that. And there's different style eyes. Again, we'll draw this differently, but this will be the basic shape. And then there's so many things you can do to this eye to change the style, and I'll go through some of that. And for now, we'll add one little lash onto it. The eyebrow will then usually have like a line here, like this, and then it's going to kind of come, and it'll come thin, and usually it'll come low and then come higher like this. Right, thick and thin like that. That's the basic eyebrow. Next is you have the lower part of the eye, and you don't always have to draw all the eye. Sometimes you leave some of the eye out, but this right here is the overall basic shape. When we go over it with black, I'll show you how you can leave some of it out. Right, then you might have 3 little lashes there. Then you're going to have the oval, and the oval, sometimes it's more round in this style and doesn't stick out as much. And you might have different shapes. It just depends on, what style you're looking at. It might be a triangle shape, it might be more round shape. Again, it really depends on the style manga that you're looking at. Let's go ahead and draw a small pupil here. This is, again, there's so many different styles out there. And then they usually have like this part here, where this is all colored in solid. Sometimes the same color as the pupil, the same darkness. Sometimes it's lighter. Like so, and then we might have one more highlight up here that's oval, and it might even come like this, right? Let's go ahead and make that bigger. I'm going to put this in white. This is all in white as well, like that. And then sometimes even you might have a little bit of shading within this lower part here, like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw over this with black to show just one way you can take this basic eye shape and then make it to where it'll be pretty much like this. And I'm going to show you different ways you can do it, like different ways you can put the highlights and things like that. And also keep in mind, sometimes eyes are really far away, and when eyes are really far away, they're more simplistic. You might just have this like dark shape here, for the whole entire pupil. just like that, one solid color, and then you'll have the eyeball itself coming around like this, and then you might have, just hint at that right there, but don't draw it. The lower lid down here somewhere like this, and then you'll have your highlights inside of it, and that's all you'll have. You won't have any pupil or anything like that. And we'll get into that too, but that's shorthand. That's usually done when, the face is really small in the page, and so you can't really get much detail in there, and so you have to like leave a lot of the details out. So you won't be able to draw all this kind of detail in an eye like that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up really quick while I ink this over. Right, so that's one variation of how you can go about and draw that eyeball. I'm going to fill that with white too. Right, so that's one variation of how you can draw that eyeball, and you'll note that it looks pretty much, I just want to ink it in so you can kind of see how it looks. However, you can take the exact same design, and there's so many different variations you can do on that one design. This is the main shape, but there's different things you can do with it. For example, let me show you another thing you can do with it and sped up time. Right, so here you can see we took that same template, the same, shape of the eye, but we added a different type of eyelashes on it a little bit and changed the structure of the inside of the eye, how we're going to do the highlights. And suddenly that kind of gives you a whole different feel to the eye than you would have before, and that's kind of where style starts coming in. So we'll show a little different kind of highlights that are used and some of the different shapes that are used, and then you can take and mix and match those highlights and those shapes to come up with different eyes. So I'm just in real time, I'll draw a couple of the eyes, front view, and then when we get more into like the 3/4 view, drawing the 3/4 view's head and the side view of the eyes, we'll get more into like how do you take these same eyes and put them into the side view. Another really popular shape I want to draw for you here, we'll do with blue since it's more of a masculine eye. We'll draw it over here. It kind of takes the shape of how I usually draw my actual eyes in comic books. And so I kind of start with this kind of almost like a rectangle shape. I kind of round it out. Except for this is just going to be bigger. It's the same idea and principle that I use. It's just this here is a lot bigger. And this might typically be of a male character, I would think. And again, there's so many different variations you can do of this eye. And it's weird, often, sometimes you actually see male characters with this like, you know, more like feminized kind of look where they have the longer eyelashes. This eye is typically going to have a round pupil. The pupil can be big or small, it just depends on the energy that you're going for within the emotion that you're going for. And so for this, I'm just kind of doing a quick draw. And now you have the eyelid, and so sometimes manga will actually draw that. That is where the eyelid line, where the eyelid will come in, will retract into, and we're going to kind of do this kind of shape here. And it might even have a couple, like a small line down here, and then maybe even a couple eyelashes right here. And you don't have to draw the eyelashes. It really just depends on whether or not, you think that your mouse should have bottom eyelashes or not. I probably wouldn't draw bottom eyelashes. I probably wouldn't draw such a big eyelash on the top either personally. I'm gonna slightly change that shape. I'm gonna kind of come halfway and across like this. And typically male eyebrows will stay shorter, closer to the eye itself. This is also true for comic books as well. Now, once you have that, again, you can add these different kinds of highlights where you have round highlights in there and some, and we'll go through different kind of highlights. You can do diamond highlights and so forth to get different kind of eyes. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in fast forward while I ink it. So as I see here, just a quick inking. It wasn't done super fast or anything. And so there I use, instead of using this kind of shaded look, I kind of just use one solid color. And you can actually make this, fade from darker to lighter with either lines, or you can do it with some other method like I did over here. It's up to you. Right, so that's that style there. Again, you can take the same exact eye. I'm not going to take the time to draw it for you real quick, but try drawing this eye and then draw different kinds of highlights inside. So maybe instead of the diamond here, and I would draw that with white, maybe you can draw a bigger pupil and then, actually, let's go ahead and do it really quick. I'll fast forward again. Right, as you can see there, we get a pretty different look. You can see these two eyes, even though they were based on the exact same template, have a very different look to them. So I'm gonna go ahead and merge all these layers together. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one for now. So as you can see, you can get a very different look to your eyes just by adding, first take your base shape and then you can add different eyebrows. So you can see how you can just what we learned so far, you can take these shapes here, just these two shapes, and mix and match the different kind of highlights inside, and then also mix and match whether or not they're going to have the eyelid, not that is the eyelid line where the eyelid retracts into, and what kind of eyebrows they'll have. And there's tons of different kind of eyebrows you can do. You can have the eyebrow come, closer to the eye down here, and then come up to make it look more mean. You can have this eyelash overlap. You can have it to where this angles down instead of angles up, and so forth. There's so many different things you can do with eyes. It's absolutely amazing, and that's why I won't have time to go through all of them, but we will draw, like I said, the major shapes. So the next major shape is very similar to the one over here, and let's go ahead and sketch this out, and then we'll draw it. So this shape here is very similar to the male shape, and you can use that male shape too for female, but it's going to be a little bit like, I guess, a little bit wider, so it's going to be more like this here, more roundish, I guess, and it's going to kind of sort of come down like this here. So the major shape is just going to be kind of a almost oval. We're going to come over here like this. All right, so imagine this kind of dividing point here, tops. So you have this angle right here. That angle right there is important. And then you're going to come down with this. So it's almost like opposites. And then you're going to come around here. So let's come down a little bit further, and then we'll come around. We'll draw this bottom lid here, like so. You can also, angle your eyes kind of more diagonal or not diagonal. There's so many things you can do. And then in here, somewhere in here will be the eyelid line. You can either draw it like that, or you can just kind of, draw it like that. It's up to you. Then you have, the eyebrow and where the eyebrow is going to fit into the eye. You can have the eyebrow kind of, fit here. You can have it come right here and come up like that, kind of give more of a mean look. It's all up to you where you have it fit. I'm going to have the eyebrow kind of fit over here. Oops. Something like that right there. Next is how you got to decide how the makeup's going to fit into this shape. So I'm going to have the makeup kind of come off here a little bit. Usually have a, thicker makeup on the top like that. I'm going to have the makeup kind of come down right here as well. And then I'm going to have the makeup come down here like so. And then next you'll have the eyelashes, which are going to come off here, here, and here. And then we'll have three coming down here, here, and here, which I'll draw differently with my brush. And I'll kind of explain too, instead of doing it all in very quick mode, I'll kind of explain more about how it looks. So you notice it's very similar to the other girl eye we did. That one has a long, it's more, that one's like shaped more like this if you think about it. Where this one is more shaped like you have opposites. You have this line here like this, and then you have this line here coming down like that, and then it's like boom like this. So it's more like I don't know what shape that is, but it's more oval, I guess. Then the other one's more rounded like that, and it has that kind of line. Whereas this one's more, oval shape rather than round shape. You can add different kind of eyes inside here. You can just add, if they're really mad, you can just add a pupil like that, nothing else. And like they're like, freaked out. You might even draw a few lines in here to show they're freaked out. And this will come some tricks and stuff we'll kind of go through. You can have the eye either fit, fully inside of here. You can have it be more rounded. or you can have it be more oval, and you can have it where part of it's disappearing like a normal human eye would disappear. This might be more of a, a 3/4 view if you were to draw it like this. We can have more of an oval shape, not quite triangle, but kind of oval, and have the bottom where it's lighter, and maybe have one more highlight over here somewhere, even down here. All right, so that's the basic shape, and now I'm going to go ahead and ink this really fast, and I'm going to speed up while I do that. I'm going to go ahead and unspeed it real fast just to show you how I do the lashes. So I pick a larger brush, and then you can do the same thing in Photoshop or pretty much any kind of program that uses pressure sensitivities. You can see before I was using a pen on a tablet if you haven't watched that video in the very beginning of this course. I start off pushing very light, and then I get harder as I get towards the edge. And this is a quick way to draw lashes. I recommend doing this way, that way. It's like backwards to how you normally do it, how you think of how people would draw lashes, but I think it works better that way. All right, so let's go ahead and delete that layer underneath it. As you can see here, this is a different style of eyes we have over there, but it's somewhat similar, but not quite. And again, you can make the bottom eyelid, large if you want to too. That's another thing you can do. So we can take this here, I'm gonna make a copy of this eye. And we'll add this little variation to it here very quickly. Let's go and take this here. We're going to erase this bottom lid. And we'll re-add a lid back to it, but we're going to make it larger like this, where it's more like that. So you can see that adds a little more roundness to it and changes the shape of the eye. So there's so many different things you can do. It's the shape of the top part. So basically when it comes to the eye, you first you have the shape of the top of the eye, and then you can decide, where your, your makeup's going to fit into there. Then you have the shape of the bottom of the eye. You can have it rounded. You can have it come like this. It's up to you. And so usually though, it's going to be more rounded. And it might just be, if it's a bigger eye, just this bottom part. And then you'll have the huge part of the eye here. And when you do that, you're going to have more of an oval here. Might go ahead and shape this shape here, and maybe another one up here. Then you go and have your eye. Then you go and draw it in. Then you have the eye lid, and then you have the eyebrow fitting in here. And that's another eye you can do. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and take that. So that's what it consists of. It's the basic principle, the basic formula for coming up with new different styles of eyes is what I just did there, is having the top lid done first. After that top lid's done, then draw the bottom lid however it's going to be, and then decide what kind of eye is going to fit inside of it. Is it going to be a smaller pupil eye, an oval pupil eye, a really large, oval, or, more round with a large oval, and so forth. Right, let's get to a couple other types of shapes that are pretty popular, especially among male eyes. Let's get into a shape that's often used for a villain's eyes. And this shape is be very oval, so kind of like almond shaped, or I don't know how to. First, I think about the inside before I even think about the shape of the eyelashes. I think, well, what's the shape of the overall, like the inside of the eye? And that's what I'm drawing right now. And this is kind of like this very wide oval shaped. I want to kind of teardrop it up like that. So I don't want it to be like perfectly oval like this, right? I want to kind of add a little bit of variance to it. And so what I'm keeping in mind is this basic shape here that I draw for eyes. That shape there, kind of up and then oval, and then come down and then come back up like this. Like that. That's the basic shape I'm keeping in mind. In fact, you can use that shape. It's a really cool shape as well. They usually have small pupils that are all dark. They'll have a little highlight on them usually, somewhere like whatever side the light's coming from. They might have a thin part of the eyelid. The eyelid might just be part like here or here. Really just depends. And then you might, show a little bit of this over here. You might even hint at a little bit of this under part of the eyelid. Just depends how close you are to the person. Let's go and add the eyebrow, which usually always extends out farther than the eye. We can come out this time a little different, make it wider, and add a couple lines like this. Right, so that right there is the basic shape. Let's go ahead and fast forward as I go ahead and ink this over. Or I should have made an extra layer there. If I remember to delete that layer, I'm going to make it red. Right, and you can also use, these more wider oval type slanted eyes for female characters as well. There are some female villains that have them. So they're, don't think that just one type of eye is limited to a type of character. But that's another really popular type eye you'll see. Another one is where it's more, even more toward the comic book style than what we did up here. And let's go ahead and draw that really quickly. These next eyeballs, I'm going to go ahead and just sketch them in. Well, actually, no, I'll kind of, I guess I have to still describe them, don't I? Just trying to save time on the course here. So this one here kind of takes a shape like this. I like to think of it like this. You have a line over here, and you have a line over here, like so. Then you're going to meet those lines together. And this is how I actually draw my comic book eyes. I'm going to kind of round this one out a little bit, this one more straight. Again, this is the inside of the eye. So if you're going to try to emulate an eye, look at the inside of the eye first, that is the white of the eye. Focus on that part first before anything else. And then add in the black parts, the part that's going to be the lashes. And you could just stop like this and come down here, or if you want, you can come, over a little bit like that. Let's go ahead and give a smaller, closer to it eyelid here where it's coming like this. And this is where they're showing where it kind of curves down because they have like this part of skin that kind of curves down in there. These are just hint at it like that. You can add some really cool looking eyebrows, all different kind of shapes you can get inspiration from so many different things. So this might be a man's eye. Now you can actually, take this eye and make this kind of style here, or you can do a more small eye inside. It's really up to you. Sometimes they'll even put a really tiny eye inside, which is even more tiny than, what might be toward like a realistic eye, where they get crazier tiny. Like this is crazy tiny for how big the eye is. I like to, when I do this kind of eye, I like to kind of fill it up with a bigger eye personally, make it look more, I think it just looks more natural, slightly more realistic. Although you're not always going for that style, that is realism. All right, let's go ahead and speed this up real quick. Right, so as you can see here, we have quite a few different shapes of eyes. These are like the most popular shapes you're going to see in manga. And you can really vary these shapes a lot of different ways and come up with different kind of eyes. You can take this kind of shape here and still come out with more of a female eye, but there's still a couple more I wanted to show you before we continue on. And I might have to draw these all in fast forward, but nonetheless, you'll have this reference sheet to look at. And it really, again, the basic principle is come up with a shape, a basic shape of the eye. You can also go look at manga and stuff and to get an inspiration. You can also invent a top shape, a top lid shape, and then a bottom lid shape. But what manga is basically doing when they're simplifying the eye is they're taking a realistic eye and they're just making it big, right? So they're saying, okay, this is the top part of the eye here, and we're just kind of draw it like this, and then we're going to make this big eye here, and then for the bottom lid, we're just going to kind of go like that. We're going to leave off most of the bottom lid, and maybe draw some crazy eyelashes and a couple eyelashes down here. Big people, big crazy kind of things here, and then eyebrow like that, right? So that's the basic idea or principle behind it. You take that, you can emulate it, and you can come up with any kind of eye in the entire world. All right, and there's another kind of eye that you can do. All right, so that concludes the video tutorial on how to draw eyes and, well, specifically how to draw manga eyes, but a little bit of briefing on how eyes work so that you understand what it is you're abbreviating. Now, there's a lot of different, types of eyes out there that I haven't really gone into. And for example, just really quickly here, you can kind of see an eye that's somewhat like this, but I'm not gonna, I guess I'll include it, but a lot of these eyes are really are like shortened for certain emotions and things like that, and they're reserved for that type of thing. They're not like the main character's eyes and how they would appear throughout the manga. But something like this here, and actually usually these lines will probably be close together, and they might have something like that here, and that's it. That's all the eye is going to be, is just that. This might be a little bit longer and nothing else. And you might have other eyes to where, they're going to be very, very simple and basic, but they're expressing an emotion more than anything else. So just keep that in mind. We'll get into some emotions and how we can kind of emulate some of those crazy emotions that are done. And another kind of eye that might be done, for example, for an emotion would be you have like the eyebrow coming up like this, then you have this kind of just circle shape for the eye, and then it might be like kind of bigger like that, and then that's pretty much it. That's the whole eye right there. So, it just depends on the motion that's being drawn and the simplicity of it and how big the image is on the page. All right, thank you for watching this lesson so far. If you're enjoying the course, please share it.